We every year we do a BIM Expo at Balfour Beatty. We do a worldwide one. Last year was in Washington. We also do a local UK one. And it involves lots of different people from Balfour Beatty coming together and showing each other what they do. So last year was sort of we spent a year applying the strategy that we put together. So I'm just going to show you a quick video. It's just a quick show reel of the stuff that we do. So see if this works. I'm going to do it manually myself. I don't have to ask the man back there, so I've got to do everything all at once. So the department that I work for at Balfour Beatty is the business efficiency team. So we look at how can we make our business more efficient, and within that is BIM, and I sit in the team called the Centre of Excellence, and this is sort of a cross-section of stuff that we've helped other people to do. This isn't us going in and doing it for them. This is, you know, facilitating sessions, and this is the output from it from last year. It's only a few minutes long. There's sound, by the way. So that's that. I'm going to jump into the main presentation, but I'm going to go on a tangent first, because yesterday I was speaking, we were at a dinner Autodesk hosted for us, and I gave an example of something I could do with my phone, and I thought I'd show you guys because I wanted to make a point of where we want to go with everything that we're doing and all the people that spoke before and things that we should perhaps aspire to do. So I think this within itself is probably a good example of being able to plug my phone into this and to show you stuff. It's not very long, so I've got to probably bend myself into some strange position to get it to work. It's my phone. So yeah, flight radar. So planes, things up in the sky right now. I'm hoping there is some. There's 3 right now, so this is real-time information. This is going from Perth to Melbourne. This is the flight path that it's been on. And it's given me real-time information about where it is. So if I press this button here, it will tell me everything that's going on. Altitude, how fast it's going, latitude, longitude, what plane it is. It's a Virgin one. And the other one, this is, well, I think it's really cool. Somewhere I can find it. Wave, everyone. So out there, somewhere in the distance, there's some planes, so I can follow them. So if you see them in the sky, you want to be like, well, what plane is that? You can point this at it. So the point I was making yesterday is that if that light up there stopped working, I can't just go, that's so-and-so light, send me another one. You know, the guys that have managed to integrate the aviation industry to the point where an average guy like me can spend 60 pence on an iPhone app and I can see everything about that flight. But for this industry, if I broke that handle on that door, I'd probably spend a week finding the information about that. It's crazy. Just one more example of that. Sorry, I've unplugged it, but I'll put it back in. I'm one of these guys that I like my apps. And I don't know if you guys have this in Australia, but I think this is the other most impressive thing that I've seen in a while. City Mapper. This thing will tell me quite quickly that, well, hopefully, that I'm outside London. So, brilliant. So that's the start. So, I mean, there's not an app to tell me that I'm standing in the wrong building. So, for example, this morning I was trying to find this thing, and I was in the building next door. Took me, I was trying to set this up and I was late. I was 20 minutes late. So that's the start. I'm not in London. That's cool. The infrastructure for travel in London is integrated to the point where these are the bus stops in London. This is Parliament Square right here. So the Big Ben, there's Big Ben. If I click on here, it tells me what buses I can catch. I can go beyond that. These are the buses I can catch and where they are and where they're due. So I want to go to that one. It'll even tell me where the bus is and how long I've got to wait. One thing I will try is I'm going to ask it to tell me to go somewhere. So I'm going to go from Fenchurch Street, which is my home station, into London. That's the wrong one. Fenchurch Street. And I want to go to work. So my work is at Victoria. Not Victoria here. This is in London. So if I get the route, this thing will give me every option of transport, how long it would take and how much it will cost, like that. We can't, how long does that take us to do that for just a door? The other good thing, so it's not, I've seen you've got hire bikes here, and I don't know if you have the same app for this, but it will tell me how many hire bikes that I can get. There's the numbers of how many that are available. I better rush to those remaining two. And then I need to work out how many slots I've got at Victoria. So if I go quick enough, I can catch the last one there. But the point is that we've put a lot of effort into mapping our infrastructure together. The other good option is if they do invent a teleporter, it will take me 0 minutes. I don't know if anybody knows who Boris Johnson is, but that is Boris Johnson right there. Our Mayor of London, and very interesting character. Look him up on YouTube if you don't know who he is. Also, there's a rain-safe option. So which option do I have if it's raining? Etc., etc. I suppose whilst I'm on here, I mean, this is, by the way, this is not part of the presentation. I just thought I'd show you it. Because unfortunately, there's been some very good presentations today that's covered most of the stuff I wanted to show you. So I've just got to make it up as I go along. Yeah, so this is my phone. This is all the crap that I do. You can see that I play lots of games. But the other thing that I can do, Autodesk 360, I'm not an Autodesk person at all, obviously, but Autodesk 360 is pretty cool. I wouldn't try and run a massive project of it because it's not good enough for it. But one thing that is good for is bids. At the moment, I shouldn't really be talking about this bid in particular, but it doesn't really matter anyway. We're doing a bid for the renovation of the tunnels for Heathrow. But this here is a list of stuff that's been going on. Obviously, with the time zones and what have you, the timing is going to be a bit weird, but I mean, I don't even know who half of these people are, and they've been working on the project. You can see what they've been doing, who's been inviting who, etc., etc. The interesting thing about this is that this man here, David Owens, on the 22nd of the 7th, has downloaded stuff, and he's an ex-employee, so we have to make sure that we get him taken off the list. So, Autodesk 360. So I won't go through the Heathrow Tunnels project because this thing's massive, and I'll be going through it anyway in my presentation. But just the last thing I want to do, a friend of mine, Vladimir, worked on the Sportex Stadium in Russia. And very much like Facebook, he sent me this via 360 and said, "Oh, check out our parametric module for the stadium." And with my phone, I mean, so this is one module. If you ever see the Google it, if you ever see the Russian Spartak Stadium, it's actually completely built from this one Revit family. That's it. But it's replicated around the rest of the building. It's parametric, so if the design changed, there's lots of things that are going on in there. It's not a Balfour Beatty one, it's my friend's one, but it's just sort of show you the, how quick and easy it is. And it's happening right now. And it's on bids, mostly, because you couldn't run a whole project off this stuff. Anyway, that's my iPhone, everyone. Let me just put this back. So, back to boring PowerPoint. So, BIM 2050. Excellent, we're back. Was originally set up from a question to the government task group was, what are you doing about the future and the people that are entering the industry now or working up towards their professional memberships of a body, becoming chartered and what have you? The answer was nothing, but congratulations, you've nominated yourself to do something about it. Thanks. And we came together, gone and collected some people. We've got everyone from QSs, project managers, environmental engineers, lawyers. We've got some insurance people. We've recently, in the past, well, since April now, we managed to convince a cabinet minister to be an honorary member, which I'll go on to next. Chloe Smith MP. She's the Minister for Political and Constitutional Reform. She looks after lots of things at the Treasury, but one of the main things that she's working on in the construction industry is how to reform that, because it's the government sees it as an enabler for growth in other parts of what the government's trying to do. And obviously, the construction industry is in having a tough time, and so is the rest of the UK economy. I mean, we don't have many natural resources to sell. We have financial services and what have you, so the way that our economy is quite different to yours. So it's great that governments actually recognise that setting, senior members of organisations setting plans for the likes of myself might not work, and they're giving us the opportunity to do something about it. Other things about the BIM 2050 group. I'm going to go through how we've split up the problems that we're trying to tackle, but our educational infrastructure is training people now for jobs that don't exist. So, for example, we've got here 10 most in-demand jobs that exist now but didn't in 2000s, and the people in these jobs had an education from there. So what does that mean for the future as things change even quicker? So how we went about doing this is realising that we have an industry, we have our institutions, like CIBSE, Chartered Institution of Building Services Engineers, RICS, that's the Royal Institute for Chartered Surveyors, REBA, for the architects, etc. Within the middle of that, we have the Construction Industry Council, which is supposed to be this group that knits those together. We have academia. So our institutions set the standards for academia to issue degrees. I have a building services engineering degree that's issued by CIBSE. And then we have the industry itself in the centre. And the things that we've wrapped around it to break the problem down into things, these are not separate things. We don't want these to be silos. These are things that support each other, but the distinct groups that we have is process and technology. We all want to get from A to B. How do we do that is the process, and the tools that we use is the technology. The culture of education. So as all this stuff comes together, what happens, if we flick a switch and we automate construction tomorrow, we have basically 1 million people that work in the labour force in the construction industry. The welfare state's in a state as it is, and if we make them all redundant, what does that mean? So the culture of integration looks at that. And then education and skills, I kind of covered that before. We're giving people educations now for jobs that don't exist. So other things we like to highlight. The 1960s, that's a computer. men in tweed jackets and bow ties. That probably calculated what 1 + 1 is or something like that. Today, in America, I don't know if anyone went to AU last year, but they had a large emphasis on young people and sort of this thing called the Makers Movement. Incredible stuff. Go and Google Makers Movement and be amazed. You know, you got, I don't know who this person is, I forget, but all I know is that using an iPhone, he's programming robots at a very young age. What does that mean for our industry when these guys turn up for jobs? Talking about young people getting frustrated and going over to other industries, how can we make it more welcoming to receive these people and not have them be completely alienated by their management? I like quoting Neil Postman because he said a good thing. He said, technological change is not additive, it's ecological. A new technology does not merely add something, it changes everything. So what I think he meant by that was thinking of how the internet has changed the landscape of pretty much everything that we do, banking, shopping, communicating. You know, it hasn't added on to how we communicated before, it just completely changed it. And that is a problem that we've got. I call it the bad attitude, because we have a problem and we come along and we plug something in it to fix that particular problem. We don't zoom back, look at the principles of the things that we're trying to do and actually have a proper solution. So we're in a situation where we've got loads of stuff that doesn't quite talk to each other properly, and we're still trying to mush them together now, so that's a problem. I don't know the answer, but this is kind of why the group is looking at it. My other hat, I am on the CIBSE BIM group. There's two things that CIBSE have set up recently. We've got a thing called BIM Talk, which is sort of like a peer-reviewed space for information. So you think of, you try and Google BIM, and some stuff will probably be for, sales stuff for the people that paid for the optimization of the searches, or stuff that, it could be completely wrong. So where can you go to find information that actually means something? It's in its infancy, it's only just kicked off. Feel free to have a look at it. It's not for profit or anything. We're in the middle of trying to get the rest of the institutions to come and talk to us with it. We've got a handful on board, but it's growing. And the other one is project data templates. Sorry to do this to CIBSE on a public forum, but I don't think this has gone on too slow. I've been part of the group for 2 years, and they've only just got to this point, and I'm quite disappointed. So that's why I'm quite encouraged to hear what's going on here. The basic principle is we have a central data template for manufacturers' information, and it just ensures that it goes along our plans of work effectively. That's just to touch on that, because I don't want to go into it too much. So my job at Balfour Beatty, Principal BIM Integrator. I'm going to slightly recap on what Alistair gave last year and kind of show you where we've gone with it. One of the things that we did launch last year is a brand for BIM to help. Balfour Beatty is a large organisation. It has 55,000 employees, so we have to, like we did with our safety policy, Zero Harm, is have a brand and give it something so people can refer to. So we called it Intelligence, Integration, Innovation, I-Cubed BIM. Knitting these three things together to build better assets. Couldn't find a decent picture of Alistair, so he looks a little bit like Wreck-It Ralph, so I've just used that. If he's watching the video, if he does it, I'm really sorry. I don't know if he would like that or not, but oh well. Yeah. So yeah, to sum up his last presentation, he said that the platform BIM is a platform for construction innovation. So using it as that launch pad to get stuff done, and I'll go into what's happened at Balfour Beatty using that strategy. So our vision: delivering customer value by being industry leaders in building information modelling. And the use of the digital toolset to go beyond delivery through an integrated approach to the whole asset lifecycle, which looks awfully like he's not here, he's gone. I forgot his name there, Mr. Penn, gave a very similar thing. So we've been talking about the orders of magnitude of what stuff's, the value of things. This was in a report by the government a few years ago, but we use it all the time. Think of how much stuff costs. So, for example, this convention centre. The circles represent the level of investment and the size of it compared to each other. So you think of how much it costs to design. I don't know how much it costs to design, but it costs a certain amount. And then we have to build it, so we have to get that design and put materials onto it. Operations and maintenance, next one on. And obviously the costs that, that the business that owns this it has, the salaries of everyone. And then beyond that is the business outcomes, the money that the convention centre makes in us coming along and paying for it. That one needs to dwarf that one, obviously, otherwise it's not a viable business proposition. But this kind of underpins why, you know, we only do up to the delivery life cycle. We do some operational life cycle on some things depending on the contract, but keeping the idea of business outcomes in mind is the underpinning of our vision. So there's a million definitions of BIM. Here's 1,000,001. Building information modelling is a delivery methodology that utilises the digital toolset to visualise, collaborate, simulate, optimise, and integrate utilising an integrated data set building information model through the whole asset lifecycle. So the whole asset lifecycle, you know, we have to make a decision on, are we going to build this thing? Then it gets put out to tender and someone has to win it. Then we have to prepare to get this thing onto site, deliver it, hand it over, operate and maintain that. And then as the purpose of the building changes or it becomes unecoable to run, do we demolish it or do we renovate it and what have you, and enhance it? So for the first stages, we want to optimize how we do things. So, you know, instead of just giving us all these tight deadlines and doing the best thing that we can within the time and making the best guess and, you know, a lot of structures in businesses, you know, they have a team that looks after bids and then all this stuff gets done and then they win it and it just goes over to another team that's never looked at it again. You know, we've all seen the dog-tooth diagram of wasted information. Build it once, build it right. So once we've gone through that optimization stage and we've found that one solution, plan the project, planning being, we were talking about it earlier, and hand that over, hand all that information over in a structured way. And hopefully we have an optimized O&M solution. So we've all seen the stuff from today, so I'm not going to bore you with everything that you've seen today, of all the things that you need to do those things. There's some words on the things, the activities that you'll do, standards and what have you. It's all a bit dry anyway. So the important thing that we needed to do in this process, and I explain how Balfour Beatty fit into this asset life cycle in a second, but is to find a way to get that knowledge and learning back as a feedback mechanism. So how do we know that, like for example, you can have two systems. So for example, you have an air handling unit and a fire damper. This is an example that I'm making up. This isn't an actual one, but you might find for some reason that a particular combination of equipment means that certain things fail. So in one example, maybe one building, you'll find that this fire damper fails all the time for some reason. What might happen in the feedback of that is that fire damper manufacturer gets a bad name. But the problem is it isn't the fire damper that's the problem, it's the air handling unit. Something, you know, maybe some sort of corrosion in the air handling unit is going through the dampers and stopping them from closing. But the only way that you can know that that is the case is that if you standardise your information across all your projects and measure them against each other, so then you find, well, on 8 projects, we've got 2 different types of air handling unit, and on the ones that marry up with the same pieces have the same problem. So there's something going on. But you won't have that visibility until you standardize your information and then start measuring them against each other. So this is how Balfour Beatty fits in that. And I think this is something that every business needs to do now, especially now the landscape of the construction industry is changing, is look at what you have. This is a condensed version. We've gone through a restructure looking at the Lend-Lease presentation that we had earlier. I think many companies are going through this consolidation of businesses, and we've done the same. So we had 23 different construction businesses, and we now only have 3. So Balfour Beatty investments, we go out and find money, or we have our own money to go and invest in projects. Parsons Brinckerhoff is our consultants and designers. We have engineering services, which is our M&E contractor that does our prefabrication and mechanical and electrical fit out. Balfour Beatty Construction, it's pretty obvious what those guys do. And Balfour Beatty Workplace, facilities management company. We look after lots of things, lots of government buildings and what have you. So how do we get the asset management, the asset life cycle, the feedback system, and knit all these companies together? We've only been a year in of tying these things together, so it's still teething issues. But one of the things that we've done, and it's managed to speed things up a bit, is have an integrated intranet system that spans across all of Balfour Beatty instead of lots of little ones. This might seem like simple stuff to some people, just have one communication system, but for big organisations it's different. And we come up with our knowledge and share team have used SharePoint 360 to, my mouth's drying up, to do that. So their initiative is called Learn, Share, Connect, and basically using 360 as a social networking site, but for construction. So instead of having people split up by projects, they're split up by disciplines, they have centre of practices, and we can see how they knit up, and they can start talking to each other. So I'm going to go on to an example. I've made a makeshift example of what happened. I tried to make this as pure as possible, and bear with me, we'll run through it. So what I did, as an experiment, I went on to 360, and I asked the question of, can somebody, I was being quite vague, can somebody send me an NWD of some MEP stuff? I pretty much said it just like that. So there's me, I'm asking my question. Lee Bird got back to me and said he can, and sent me this. So the thing that I want to say about this is happening every day for normal people, not these sort of big flashy projects, is that he was able to email me a file, an NWD, a Navisworks file, and let me show you the level of detail that you get for something that you sent in an email. This thing's smaller than a PDF. I don't know if anyone's seen this before, but you can actually, wrong screen. You can embed Navisworks into PowerPoints now, but this is to show you how lightweight this technology is. This is running through PowerPoint. We're in a world now where I'm able to show you. This is a prefabricated plant room. So this all gets delivered in units that fit on the back of an Arctic truck, and they piece together. But if you look at the level of detail that we've got, granted my computer's quite a powerful one, but this does work on much smaller machines. We've all seen examples of this happening, but the point that I'm trying to make is that in the old world, you'd have to have known someone in some corner of an office somewhere that does this. But now, I think it was in about an hour, I was able to give a vague question, can someone send me some stuff? And I got this back in an hour over email. So I'm going to jump out of our everyday example and go into one of our flagship projects. Just everyone needs their flagship project to show off how great they're doing. This is Heathrow Terminal 2B. I've put it in PowerPoint just to show that you can't do big stuff in it. I'll try and walk around this thing and it just won't happen. But what's happening on TTB is quite interesting. This is probably the first example that we've got where, the first example that we had, I suppose, because it happens now, but of sort of 3 years ago of trades coming together on a weekly basis around the model to decide what they're doing. I'm going to jump at this in a second and actually show you this in action, but let me just speed this up a bit. You know, even something as big as this, I mean, this model's huge. This model has everything in it: cranes, services. This thing's bigger underground than it is above ground, so it doesn't look like this much. But when you get underneath, this wasn't emailed to me. It's a little bit too big for email. This was shared on the 360 system, but you know, we're putting modules together. Some of you guys have seen this today, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's kind of to show that this stuff's happening and it's real. So let me just come out here. So what was happening on a weekly basis was a 2-week previous review and 3 weeks ahead of what's going on. So let me just press play on this. So the reason why I've not done videos is that I think sometimes with the videos, and well, so things can go wrong when you try and do it live. Oh, don't let me down, not today. There's tasks. We are going to go to Plan B. So, Heathrow TTB was a great project. That's not working. So this is a different example, and I think this is going down to now the everyday stuff. God, it looks really different than it does on there, but never mind. Groundwork concrete subcontractor, asking them, does your program match up with ours, and does the sequencing make sense? What we were able to do is we had to do a little bit of infrastructure on the automation. But what they were able to do, and this is coming from them, this is what they sent me, this is very straightforward. I know this is not MEP services, but they've got their tasks. This isn't some expert team in a big contractor somewhere. This is an Irish man that gets quite angry very easily, telling a younger guy who's also Irish and doesn't get as angry. Just following some simple rules on, you know, name something like this and put the date in there and press play and go back through it. You know, you can see it's going through quite quickly because it's condensed, but, you know, it seems to make sense. When it first turned up, let's go back to here. So when this thing first turned up, we found that, so this is, sorry, I should really explain what this is. This is the groundwork and slab pouring for a waste facility. Where's that laser pen? That's a slab. That's a hole. That's a bunker. It's a 6-meter hole in the ground. What we found, this is the one where they fixed it. But what we found is they were trying to do all the work here without finishing off the capping beams for the piles, and they didn't have a floor to do the lining behind the piles. Really simple, but it would have just put a week or two onto the program. So this is lightweight stuff that's happening on the ground. we're doing this is the finished article. I unfortunately couldn't load the one that has the laser scans in because it was just too long. For those that don't know anything about the M25, which I'm guessing most of you are, it's the main highway that circles London and causes people lots of problems. But here, we've captured it, scanned it, put it in, done the design. Well, we didn't do design, Atkins did, but we coordinated it. This includes the underground services. This was emailed to me. The other one wasn't. The other one with the scans in I had to get. But what we were doing is matching up the scanning afterwards. But the thing that I want to point out here is that it doesn't cost that much to scan. So if you're doing a project that's existing, do go and scan it, because people miss things out. With a scan, you don't providing you're using the right scanning standards, you can just pop back to the scan instead of having to, as you can imagine, the main point of bringing this up is if the site office is, put that back a bit, if the site office is over there and you need to go and resurvey this gantry here, you need to drive down to here, find out the information that you need to know, and then drive 12 miles or wherever it is to the next junction, turn around and drive all the way back. Turn around and come all the way back to there and done. So the amount of time that we've saved in just capturing what we've done and modelling it, the guys don't have to leave the office to check on stuff. £20 million healthcare project. This happens on any project that engineering services gets in. Will prefab mains secondary branches. Let's just sort of show you there's a clash there. There you go. Just show we're not trying to hide anything. But the main reason for showing you this is just that you can put up images and I can say everything's great. It's not. But this stuff is happening, and I encourage you, if you're not doing it, please do it. It doesn't. There's an upfront cost for the technology, but once you put in the social structure for people to talk to each other, and you enable them to do this, it's good stuff. So, benefits that we've seen so far: a 10% saving on waste for last year. But when I say waste, I'm talking about skips leaving the site. We managed to save 10% on. I mean, you could imagine the skip bill for Balfour Beatty is quite big. So saving 10% on that's pretty good. So these are some. I did want to put all of our KPIs on because we kind of feel that what we've done to measure ourselves isn't quite out there, which I'm quite against. I think we should show people it, but the paymasters say no. Improved margin. Obviously, I can't give you the percentages, but it's in the order of 1%. Well, I say 1%, just under that. But the company's of a large size, so that level of saving on a £52 billion turnover is quite a bit. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is going back to the bids. Is we have a leaner and more effective bidding process. So it's cheaper for us to bid, and we're getting it done quicker. And I think that's the important thing. You can do. The projects will come, but if you don't win the projects, it's pointless. And you do have to use BIM in bidding. You can't just go out and guess and knock stuff up together. You have to use it to get a better price, to get a competitive price. Before I came along at Balfour Beatty, the problem that Balfour Beatty had was that it was losing out on price by tens of millions of pounds on some projects, and it couldn't understand why. It said, well, we're making a loss, and other people put in these cheaper prices in. Okay, some people are making suicide bids where they're screwing themselves over, but in some cases they're not. So what we've done is change the conversion rate of how many bids we have to do. There's less bids out there. So if we're winning one in 5 and there's less projects out there, you're going to lose out. But if we haven't got enough capacity to bid more, we're naturally going to lose money. So it's either we deal with that, change how we target projects, or change how we bid them. How can we make the bid process quicker and cheaper? Collaboration. So this is going back to the the SharePoint 360 stuff. We've connected 55,000 people. We have, I think it's globally, I think it's 128 centre of practices for disciplines. If you go through our centre of practices, I mean, this thing's left open. This isn't, there's a governance structure for the corporate stuff that sits on the top, and then we've given them the structure for the companies. But the bit that I really like about the next tier down is that it's open to everyone. So if you've got a specialist thing, you don't have to go through some stupid level of bureaucracy to set up your own centre of practice. You can just set one up. If it kicks off, it kicks off. So that's part of the culture bit. The other bit that we're seeing benefits from, and this is just happening now, is integrating our technical integrity. So this is our quality, how when our CEO turns around and says, how are we doing? He'll get information that's months out of date. Everyone's hit everybody else on the head to delegate a report to be written on every single project and send it up the food chain. With projects going wrong and going wrong quickly, 3 weeks, to get a report back to the CEO in 3 to 4 weeks or a month, or however long it takes, it's already too late. So what we're doing now is, so BMS, this isn't building management system, this is what we refer to in our business management system, is using the 360 field stuff that Mr. Payne was showing us earlier, but to actually use that to automatically populate our business management system up the stream. We're only doing it on commissioning now. So the integrity of commissioning the steelwork and all the tests that need to happen and what have you. That's step one. We've completed that one, and we're just going to do the next thing and the next thing, take the low-hanging fruit, and then hopefully by the end of next year, we should have most of our KPI performances being real-time, straight to a dashboard for the senior management. And obviously, and the main thing, I couldn't get the numbers, to be honest, because it's, as I said, because of the way that we measure things and because how large the organisation is, things are safer. We do have sites that have 0 incidents, only in the UK, but it's a start. So to start wrapping up, some stuff to take home and think about. There's a report done by McKinsey in 2012 that says $57 trillion in global infrastructure investment by 2030. So that's the level of investment needed to. I copy this. This is from a Pasha Kutcher. I don't know if you've ever done those before, but it's the thing where you have a certain amount of time to talk about a slide. I think it's like 20 seconds a slide, but I wanted to go into detail with this one, so I'm going to have to keep flicking back. So to keep up with the level of growth in the world, we're going to need to spend that much money. Oh. But looking at the West, it has a 0% gain in construction sector labour productivity. So what that says to me, with that level of expenditure and that level of productivity, there's an opportunity out there to go and make yourself more productive and show the people that are spending that money that you're doing something about that. And I think it's very easy to do with the tools that I've showed you today, with the processes that we put in place. I think we could all do that. My last slide is from some research that I've done. I asked, these were, believe it or not, only one of these was actually in the building services industry. I actively looked at people in other industries, and the question was, in construction and in a digital asset, where is the highest level of density of information? And first place was us. Second place was architecture, and the last level was structure. But what that also says with all the other stuff about infrastructure is that with all the information that goes into these assets, we actually hold the highest amount of responsibility to get this stuff done. You think of the level of complexity in a ventilation system and all the things that need to happen before you can even switch that system on and it be operational. You know, the architecture has to be there, the structure needs to be there, it needs to be coordinated with it, there needs to be pins to it, can the structure hold it up? Do the systems work? So that's why that's there. And I think that if you take something home from today, you have to realise that the shoulder, or the burden of responsibility for getting this stuff done, I think sits with us. I think we should all go and take the opportunity and grab a slice of that $57 trillion pie. Or, you know, if your senior management are not interested in doing that, then let's just leave and we'll set something up. But yeah, and that's me. Oh, and for anyone that's on Twitter that wants to give me some public abuse, that's me there.